good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good middle of the night if that's where you are. And welcome to Sci Trek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. And I am with those guys. Stormy Bear, say hello, mate.
Hello, mate.
That was quite good. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm going to teach you a Liverpudlian accent next time just to freak people out. And then way over there, little Harris.
Howdy.
What's happened with the beard?
I know. I'll clean shaven and baby face now.
Oh, so cute, isn't he?
I dropped a few years.
Oh, I got my.
I'm sorry. You just look like you're 12 years old. Should we be in the same room with him alone? I mean, I'm unsure how these rules go.
No,
I went from like looking my age to back. They'll ID me again, so I'm not too opposed to it.
You're going to get carded for baby food. Jesus, he doesn't.
I wish I got carded. It's been a long time since I've been asked for ID. It used to be such a nuisance. I've always looked 5 years younger than I am, which is nice. Now I'm 44. But when I was like 23 trying to pull girls, not so much. No, I'm legal, honest.
Like, see, I look 5 years younger than I am without a beard, and then with the beard, I'm hanging out with people 5 years older than me most of the time. So it's a little bit of everything, you know?
Or two old codgers like us every Sunday.
Look at the young whippersnapper without
beard. We hate you, Harris.
Yeah.
But, only because of your youth and good looks and hair. But other than that, we like it. But anyway, guys, welcome to Sci Trek Sunday, where we talk about whatever the hell we want. But this week has been a bit of an interesting week. We've had a very interesting episode of Andor. We've had the season finale of She-Hulk, which has caused some controversy, and I've already done one video where I moan about that a great deal. And some of the comments I got in return were lovely. But anyway, and we've got this Rings of Power season finale, which was very interesting. Still a little boring, but we'll get into that later. Sorry, Stormy. But guys, shall we talk about She-Hulk first, if that's okay?
Yeah.
So before I rant, I'm very aware sometimes I talk a lot on these, and I need to button my lip. So before I talk a lot, why don't you guys jump in first, and I'll just try to be quiet.
Okay. So I'll start. It was good.
No, it wasn't. Wrong.
He had to butt in. Did you see that? It took no time for him to butt in. Swear to God, I can't get a word out because he's a jabberjaw.
Sorry, no, I should have promised.
It was
Go.
good. I've said my piece. It was good.
Why
Move on to Harris. Harris might want to say something. Damn.
Stormy said it was good, and I accidentally knocked off the lamp behind me.
You were so surprised.
I was shocked, flabbergasted, appalled, abhorred. I feel like I didn't dislike it.
I did,
but I didn't like it. I'm much more. I'm leaning towards dislike. I'm still kind of. You saw my tweet, Jamie. I took a nice fat dab prior to watching that show, and the second the fourth wall was broken, I was like, "What did I just smoke? What is going on? Like, what year is it?" I didn't know what was happening, but I like the idea of what they did. I like the fourth wall break, and I like some of the implications that might have going forward. But also, I really did not. I didn't like the way they did it. I believe it was New Rockstars. They put out a video and they literally juxtaposed it against the season finale for Loki, and it's bullet point, cut for cut, the exact same thing done a different way. It's instead of a big action, it's a big kind of a dialogue sequence between two people, and it's supposed to be this emotional thing, but instead of being a character inside of a world that we're obviously watching, it's supposed to be inside of our world, but obviously it's not inside of our world because Jessica Gao and the showrunners wrote all of this during the pandemic. So they weren't ever in a writer's room like that. And they weren't ever on the Burbank lot in Disney like that. So that was also false. So it's technically a world within a world. And now there's just more questions. But with all that, I don't think we got any actual growth for She-Hulk. She's exactly where she started out at the beginning of the season. Is she going to be a lawyer? Is she going to be a Hulk? Did we actually? Nothing happened. I didn't dislike the season as a whole, but nothing happened. And I understand it as a comedy, so that can kind of play into that. But I didn't laugh really the entire season either, and nothing was really like it wasn't those Rick and Morty laughs I was expecting from the woman that wrote Pick Rick. I expected a lot more, and it never delivered what I wanted it to. Except the Daredevil walkout scene, the twerk scene, those were good. But besides that, there weren't really that many great jokes. One of the better jokes was in this past episode, though. What did Tatiana Maslany say? As she said, I smash this, smash Matt Murdock. That was pretty funny. But besides that, am I watching a comedy or am I watching just a middling MCU show kind of tear itself apart?
You know what I'd like to see? I mean, you brought about the idea of the fourth wall being broken all the time. I'm somewhere inside me, there's a little boy that would love to see the last Picard series where lore is breaking the fourth wall, with slapstick comedy. I think that would it'd ruin the series, of course, but hey, everything else has been ruined. So why not have lore, making commentary into the fourth wall throughout the entire thing?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, why not? Why can't we have that? I would love it.
Like I said, with the fourth wall, then just quickly, I think the breaking of the fourth wall, because she does that in the comics, right? Now, I've actually read a couple of She-Hulk comics since this, because somebody said it's in the comics. This is a comic, sorry, it's in keeping with that. So I read a couple of comics online, and She-Hulk did break the fourth wall occasionally. Yeah. Is the thing with this show though that it's not the fact that they broke down the fourth wall; it's that they did it too much. It's like over and over and over, and it got a bit stale. For me, I think the fourth wall breaking thing works. That little look to the camera and stuff that they'll do in some shows. It works if you use it sparingly. If you do it too much, it loses its fun and it loses the point of it, sort of thing.
I think that happened in the last episode. I would kind of disagree with the rest of the series. I thought they used it really well throughout the rest of the series. That once or twice per episode is kind of like, all right, it's there, but we're not thinking about it all the time. And when it happens, it's a good chuckle, and that's usually where it was funnier. I think the issue there is the rest of the show legitimately just wasn't funny enough to keep us entertained and to keep that entertainment level, I guess, at that same degree as the jokes that would come off as more meta and that fourth wall commentary. That was kind of more.
Oh, I was going to say maybe she needs to be singing during her fourth wall commentary. Like maybe. Tim Curry and Rocky Horror, he did a lot of fourth wall kind of stuff, looking at the camera, but he was always singing. Maybe she just needs to sing.
Deadpool's got a little bit of a tune when he talks on camera or towards the camera, so maybe.
I'm just, let's just throw shit out there. Why not? We got the fourth wall, well, we might as well add singing with lore in Picard.
With that show, I wouldn't be surprised, or with the Picard or She-Hulk, I guess.
They are desperate, Star Trek, to keep Brent Spiner in that TV show any way possible, isn't they? And he loves to sing, so why not? But with the She-Hulk, okay, my other one issue I had with She-Hulk was it was obviously a big middle finger to the trolls and to the anti-woke people. That's very clear. My argument is though that seems to be more important than actually having some sort of story, because again, I had a look at the She-Hulk comics, and there was always a story to them. She would break the fourth wall. She would even go and see the writers. I think Ellie, they mentioned that in a comment. They would go and see the writing stuff. But there was, in the comics I read anyway, I only read 2 or 3, there was always still like an end to the story. There was something would happen, and then she would punch somebody in the face really hard, and she'd win. There was still a Marvel story to it. I don't think this series has a Marvel story to it at all. If you actually think about it, all of the build-up through the 6 episodes was completely pointless because none of them were going anywhere. I mean, the whole thing about them trying to get her blood, that one scene where they come and they beat her up with magical tools and they're trying to get her blood, but the needle won't go in. That was pointless because it didn't go anywhere.
She literally asked a question of a robot and that plot line just dropped.
Yeah, I found that a little frustrating, but this is a big thing, middle finger to. I actually gave the bird then off screen. And did you see it? I'm not sure I'm allowed to, but anyway, it did that to trolls and the anti-woke people. But again, though, did they do it too much?
Oh, I don't know. I thought the story meandered, and I think some of the episodes meandered within the episodes, and the meanderings had meander. It's just there was a lot of loose ends that didn't get like any exposition later on. It was, I mean, it's entertaining to watch if you've got nothing else to do. I mean, it wasn't bad, it wasn't Ishtar bad, but it was just, it's not something I'm going to go back and rewatch. Like I will rewatch the shit out of the Rings of Power. I already have. I'll rewatch, maybe Pennyworth or something. Like a lot of the times, every time we get on this thing, on this live stream, we talk about what we've rewatched. And those, even though some of the stories are good or bad or whatever, or just don't really rise to the level, we will rewatch the entire series, all 50 seasons or whatever, because they are good.
Yeah.
I am sorry to say, I mean, I know the actors and the actresses really put their heart into this, but I kind of think the writers let them down. There was nothing there to make me re-stream it again. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I consumed it. It's pop material. It's like all this pop music. You don't want to go buy the album.
Yeah. I mean, it was different. You can't argue that it wasn't different. They did something different. I mean, that's, sorry, Harris.
No, I was just going to say, like, I feel like all of the performances and all the acting was exactly what it was meant to be and all very well done. Just the writing wasn't there. And I mean, you can see that. I keep bringing up the comedy aspect of it. I don't think they had comedy writers. I mean, they had Jessica Gao, but it just didn't feel like the show had a soul is a good way to say it. It felt like that soul meandered around, and then that meandered off somewhere else. It was a good way of saying that. Mm-hmm. But to Jay's original point of was there too much or too little, or I guess was there too much of the anti-woke stuff? It was either too much or too little in a way where it didn't have a soul. There wasn't that one kind of pivotal thing to hold on to for the series, and it just kept meandering. We got kind of a couple little MCU stories in there. Like Daredevil kind of had his own little miniature aspect of things, but with that, we should have seen a prolonged Law kind of plot at some point, a 2 or 3, 4 episode Law plot arc. Is the Hulk's MCU story in here where he brings his son back? Is that supposed to feel gratifying? Because that did not feel gratifying. Sure, they could give us a Planet Hulk movie or a TV show, something like that, and bring us back into that. But I just leave at the end of episode 1, have a phone call, a little cameo in the middle of episode 2, and then be kind of, I guess, dangled at us like a carrot in the beginning of the last episode just to kind of actually come back and have a son at the end of the episode. None of the writing was there to bring us to that point. I don't know how we got to a Fast and Furious family meet and greet, having Coronas and boom, boom, Tyrese Gibson and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson walks in. Obviously they don't, but it felt like a Fast and Furious franchise moment there when it didn't earn. Who's this family? We've seen the mom and dad and the brother. We've seen the dad a little bit more, but we've seen them twice. They got technically just as much screen time as Daredevil or the Hulk, but it wasn't rewarding. And then, I don't know. I don't dislike the show overall, but that's, I think, its pivotal downfall is it didn't have a soul. And how are we supposed to be rewarded as people watching it with souls that want that? We want to feel a little happy, warm feeling at the end of the show, or we want it to actually make us think and stuff like that. And I think it tried to do both and failed at both instead of just picking one.
I think one of the things is with this type of show is that it's obviously fiction, but you fall into the show. It's almost like this porn part of your brain that almost wants it to be real, and you get absorbed into it, sort of thing. So when then something happens, you have an emotional response. I think because they break down the fourth wall so much, it doesn't feel real. So you have no connection to it. So then when something does happen, you just don't really care. And the whole thing with the Hulk at the end and going, "Oh, this is my son Scar." If you'd have blinked, you'd have missed it. And even if you didn't miss it, again, you don't care. And I just think it was just such a shame because actually I love the actress that plays She-Hulk. I think she's amazing. Tatiana.
Awesome. That's Lani.
Tatiani, sorry. And the Hulk character I thought was great. I didn't mind the CGI, even though it was weak in places. And all these things that a lot of people have complained about didn't bother me because I can appreciate it's still a TV show. And, they're not going to, they make little jokes, don't they, about like, shall I turn back into Jennifer now because, like the screen cost things. And I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. I can appreciate that is actually an issue, and this is because you're very expensive. It was like, okay,
that Black Panther drum roll after was pretty damn funny too.
Yeah. There were some really good bits in this, but I feel that the agenda, and I feel that that word is a bit more loaded than I mean it to be, but the point of the show was to stick two fingers up at people, anti-woke controls and stuff like that, and that was more important than any story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a shame. That's what made me come away with a bit of taste in my mouth thinking, I've wasted my time watching that. Can you see my point? Or am I being a bit...
No, I can definitely see your point there.
The other thing that annoyed me, though, and I did actually finish watching this, and I did sort of like cross my arms and think, fuck's sake, I felt like Marvel were giving a little bit of a two fingers up to Marvel fans. And it was like the whole bit at the end when she sort of like, what do you want to do with Abomination? Oh, I would just like him to take some responsibility for what he's done. And, it almost felt like, well, if you want a big punchy up Marvel ending, that's childish. And we're not going to do that. We're going to do something a bit more grown up. And I just felt like, well, that's like I wanted a big punch uppy, and so was that wrong for some reason? So I even felt like they were sort of like almost like telling us not telling us off. That's a bit much, but it was a bit of almost like insulting Marvel fans as a whole. And I don't know. I just wish this show, if they'd have done everything but had an end, had a point to it, I wouldn't have come away from it almost annoyed. But Abomination just going, I'm sorry, I'm going to go write a haiku. I'm like, oh, fuck off. The whole series has obviously been building up towards the fact that it was him that was trying to corrupt She-Hulk and get her blood and do something with it, because all of the people that were trying to get the blood were his fucking camp. So it was obvious. Maybe it was too obvious. But there's just no point to the series.
That or introduce the leader. The leader is supposed to be the leader of that intelligentsia group. I expected him to show up, honestly, at some point, because he was confirmed for Captain America New World Order as well, and She-Hulk is, I guess, rumored to be in that film as well. And I don't see how that was set up. I mean, if the intelligentsia just existing is supposed to set that up, I don't think it did all that great of a job. But it did kind of feel like a big FU to Marvel fans in the same way that Ralph Boner felt like a FU to fans in the WandaVision finale. It was kind of like, oh, you have all these theories and you think this one character could be cool. No, it's there just for the sake of being there. And it's kind of what Kevin felt like, even though it was cool. I really did like a lot of the meta aspects of it. It was a complete rehash of Kang and Loki but trying to be meta. And I don't. What fans are supposed to watch that and feel satiated from that? I don't know. I don't know. I say I can never say that word. Satiety. The feeling satiated from that, I guess, is what we're all looking for. And I don't know who's supposed to feel satiated from watching that episode.
Yeah, it didn't like. There wasn't like this. Oh, that was a good show. Yeah, that's really cool. And going back to one of Jay's points about the especially about the fourth wall. If there was any more fourth wall, they should have just hired Morgan Freeman to narrate the damn thing. I swear to God. It wasn't a continuous thing, but I can just hear Morgan Freeman, and here they come for her blood. Notice how the criminals, and it was just like, get Morgan Freeman to narrate the thing and just let her do her lines. It would have been much better. I'm just saying.
But yeah, I just think it's unfortunate because it's such a good actress, and I really like the character, and I really like the setup.
This is not a criticism against the actress at all. They did very, very well with what they had.
I did actually get accused by a guy, and we talked it through, and I explained to him that I wasn't at all, but he did sort of suggest that I was actually like supporting the anti-woke people, and sort of like. And I made it sound like I was just attacking anything with a female lead, and that was not my point at all. I thought she was great, and I thought the character was great. I just think the agenda of what they were trying to say overtook any show, and also there's the crime of that it just wasn't funny, and it's supposed to be. And it's attorney at law.
Yeah,
there was very, very little legal stuff going on in there. I'd have preferred it if they'd have made a legal drama. I've started watching Boston Legal again with Will Shatner and oh fuck, I forgot, James Spader. I love that show, and that's a comedy. That's got silliness. That they break the fourth wall all the time in that. They keep talking about how it's like sweeps week and stuff, and they've got to try and get the viewing figures up and things, and that's brilliant. But it's still like got a story to it.
Yeah.
I'd have liked to have seen a bit more of that. If they wanted to do something different, do that. But instead, they made an anti-woke propaganda series.
Well, they presented the series to us as an Ally McBeal styled law series.
Oh my God!
I think we got 2 law series, maybe 3 in the whole series.
If they only had a unisex bathroom, it would have helped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some procedural stuff in there would have been fun.
Something.
But anyway. I did hate it, but I don't hate it enough to. I've said my piece. Good now. It's out. I do hope that anybody that watches my She-Hulk video goes back and actually listens to what I'm saying, because I've had a few comments and they've jumped in and I've gone like, no, come on, that's not what I've said. But I'm not supporting the anti-woke. You know what I think about the woke word. I hate it. I'm not a fan of the woke word.
That's so woke of you.
I know. But I don't like it because of where it came from and what it actually means. But anyway, I lose about 10 subscribers every time I mention why I don't like it.
So my question after watching She-Hulk, are you more likely to go back and watch this season again?
Nope.
Or to go back and watch Thor: Love and Thunder again?
Nope.
Oh my God!
Okay, good. You've got to watch one or the other.
Drive off all the audience. Why not? Let's just shut down now and quit. Damn.
I don't want to watch either.
Woo.
That's where I'm at.
I tried to watch Love and Thunder again. I got about halfway through and I had to turn it off.
Oh.
I thought I've got to give it a chance. I'm being unfair. Maybe I was just too looking forward to it. I was expecting Ragnarok 2, and I was just then disappointed by it. So I thought sometimes you build yourself up so much, and then you watch it and you're like, I'm disappointed. It's not what I was expecting. But then you watch it again, and you're like, got it. Yeah. So I tried to watch it again.
At least they made Werewolf by Night. They're doing something good. Thankfully.
I enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. But we're getting a second series of She-Hulk. Yay! Not watching it.
Fingers crossed.
It looks like we're 100% getting a second season, and we're getting a second season at Miss Marvel, and I still haven't watched that either. But anyway, okay.
Well, I watched Miss Marvel, and it's a really good kid show.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a few bits and bobs in there you need to know for later bits, but I don't know. I honestly think Marvel's in decline at the moment, and I really hope they sort it out. I think they're doing quality over quantity, and I hope they slow down and they sort it out.
Is it Marvel or Disney? Do you think is in decline?
Well,
because here's my question. Here's the real question, and this deserves its whole video. Swear to God, is Pinhead a Disney princess now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically.
Is Pinhead now the Halloween princess? It's.
Ooh, that's a good. Yeah. I suppose so.
We've got Cenobite princesses now, and it's fantastic. So is the Chatterer a Disney prince technically too?
Why not?
I guess.
Hey, let's throw them all in. Now that's not a dinner party I want to go to, but.
But will there be singing?
Oh God!
You won't be able to understand.
A whole new world.
Yeah.
No.
And Agent Carter. I've just seen that comment. Agent Carter was fantastic, particularly the first season. I loved Agent Carter.
Fuck, I loved Agent Carter, man. I mean, Holloway was just absolutely robbed from not getting a second season. It was just third season. It was just great. It was great. I actually bought it for streaming just because I loved it so much. It was really good.
If that series had been a couple of years later, when Disney Plus was up and running, and it had gone straight to Disney Plus, we'd have got 5 or 6 seasons of that.
Yeah.
It's just it was on the wrong network. People didn't quite get it, and it didn't get the following, and it got cancelled. But just a couple of years later, it would have been fantastic.
If it would have been part of that Netflix era, it would have been well done too.
Yeah.
It just happened to be ABC, and I guess viewership was switching to streaming more so during that time period, and it just kind of screwed it over.
Yeah. But she was fantastic in Strange 2. One of the best bits of it. I thought she was amazing. So, yeah. Eli has just said, I hope we get to see her again. The rumor is we are going to get to see her again, and the rumor is there is going to be a possibly another Captain Carter series. So, but it'll be a different format. But I can't remember the rumor now. I'm telling you that, and I can't remember. But I'm sure that was the gist of it anyway. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Andor?
Or should we do Rings of Power?
Well, I should do Andor just because it'll be a little one. They will end on Rings of Power. I think we might end up talking about it for a while. And I thought Andor basically. I'm just wondering what you guys thought. But in a nutshell, bloody hell, it was good.
I loved it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a guy, a friend of mine at work is just. I think he's of the mind that there shouldn't be any Star Wars series. These are movies. There shouldn't be TV series. And so I always taunt him. Yeah, what did you think of the last Andor? Because I know he's never watched it. I think he watched maybe Bad Batch or something else, but he's been very down on any. I think he's one of the trolls online that just types into the night bitching about Star Wars series. But so it's. I liked it. I mean, it's more Star Wars. I thought the Andor as a character was an odd choice at first to have its own spin-off series. I thought he did a very good job. The actor did a very good job in Rogue One. But it was just like, wow, they made a spin-off series out of him? I mean, really? And I thought it was like, wow, they're really running out of material. But oh my God, was it really a good show? It was more of a. It was like it explained a lot of the inner workings of the Rebel Alliance at its top tiers in the Senate and how it was represented. And I don't know. I just really liked it. So. I enjoyed it. The anti-woke people can come out and accuse me of something, I guess, and that'll just up our ratings.
They'll always accuse you of something. I like the point that you make about it being like procedural, and we're getting to see the roots of the thing. I love how they did a Firefly. The AK-47 was actually a laser gun. So that was very fun of them. They have these like retro-looking guns, and it's like, yeah. The main thing about this was it's been a bit boring up till now. I generally think it has, because it's building up so much and it's quite procedural in a way. So it's like, this is why we're at this, but it's got a lot to explain. But then the Karis Nemec was a character I actually cared about when he got squished. I was like, oh man, I like that guy. And I'm actually looking. Yeah. Well, I just thought they built him up really nicely. But I'm actually now excited about where this is going next. Where I maybe wasn't after the 4th or 5th episode. I was a little bit like, oh, okay, come on then. This rebellion sucks. But actually now I'm like, where are they going with this?
They're getting somewhere, yeah.
And sorry, go on.
This is. I mean, we've seen more. I mean, this is and we also got as a parting gift, we got a really good backstory on Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we're getting lots of depth of color of a lot of stuff building up to the Star Wars movie. It's just adding to. I thought the same about Rogue One, that it added so much, and this just is adding to that. I think it's great. And we're going to get Alan Tudyk in at one point as that robot AC-30. I forget his name.
K2SO.
K2SO. Thank you. Which is great. Alan Tudyk and everything is amazing. We're going to get a few really good characters going through in the next. I had a look at I made the mistake of looking at IMDb, looking at the list of actors that are in it, and I'm like, there's some freaking good actors. Forrest Whitaker's going to be in this at some point. Great actor. I don't know what his character is. I didn't bother looking at the character name. No, I'm really excited about where this is going in the last few episodes, and I'm wondering now as well. I assume this is going to be a one season. I thought it's only supposed to be one season. I'm thinking no, now it's got to be at least 2, isn't it?
Oh, they're filming the second one right now.
Excellent. I assumed it was one.
Where this season 1 is supposed to be a year, like the first year of the rebellion. Season 2, where I don't know if it's 11 or 12 episodes. I forget. I know season 1 is 11 episodes. I think season 12 is 12 episodes. And the way they're doing it is every either 3 or every 4 episodes is another year up to the rebellion. And they're doing like the first 5 years leading up to Rogue One, leading up to the rebellion. So they're essentially working alongside Star Wars Rebels, those 5 years leading into the rebellion, leading into Rogue One and A New Hope.
I feel a bit stupid now. I knew that. Just explain that. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I'm pretty sure I remember saying that on this channel. Shit, forgot that.
It's gonna be great.
So much information goes in my brain. Some of it leaks out my ears. My wife says a lot leaks out my ears, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. I actually think that might be the favorite thing I've watched this week. Andor was I just thought it was fantastic. But I did watch
House of Dragon.
Oh, House of Dragon was great as well. Oh, that was good. The special.
I haven't seen that yet.
One of those two.
Oh man.
Okay, just bringing that up real quick though, and Stormy's not gonna like me for this one.
Go ahead, spoil away.
No, I'm not spoiling. I'm talking about the levels of slowness here. So I don't find Andor boring at all. I will start it out by saying that I love slow burn films. I watched First Cow 3 times when it was in movie theaters, and if anybody's ever seen First Cow, that is the definition of a slow burn film. And it's okay. I like that kind of drawn out. I like to kind of be in that world more sometimes. But I don't necessarily think that's what we're getting with Andor. I think it's not necessarily exposition because it's all necessary for story. Similar in the way House of the Dragon's doing it, where Rings of Power was just boring for the most of the season. I liked all the story points of Rings of Power, but it was drawn out and almost it was just boring compared to, yes, we're just getting a lot of dialogue essentially in House of the Dragon and Andor up until now. But that fuse has to be lit, and it has to be that strong and long of a fuse for that, I guess, explosiveness to be that good. But Rings of Power, it didn't let me down, but it didn't meet expectations either.
I see it similar to the prose in The Hobbit versus the Silmarillion. If you've ever read The Hobbit, it's just a couple. It's just a few chapters, and they're being slow roasted by the trolls. The Silmarillion is a slow burn book.
Yes.
I mean, it is. I read this meme that the top 10 things a writer doesn't do, and it violated every single one of them. And but where The Hobbit was really action packed, sequence rich, just boom, 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 out of the frying pan into the fire kind of thing. Silmarillion wasn't, and sometimes I'm wondering if Rings of Power, because it's trying to tell the story across 1,000 years, that it should be a little bit more, but it isn't, and it is on a real slow burn. Now, I think you get an opportunity for a lot of character development. Like, I'm in love with the Harfoots and how they wrote all all of those scenes. But you're right; it's like Silmarillion versus The Hobbit, and the pacing is completely different.
Well, I hate to even, because it was going. It wasn't necessarily doomed to fail running up alongside House of the Dragon, but at the same time, both of the legitimate stories there span over a very long period of time. And House of the Dragon, I feel like, Rings of Power was like, all right, we're going to cut that time period down and make it make sense for a narrative story, where House of the Dragon found an exquisite way of telling that longevity of a story. And House of the Dragon, they've set themselves up where if you want to have a 2 or 3 or 4 year prequel series with young Rhaenyra, if you want to have another smaller prequel series with the current Rhaenyra and Harwin Strong, you can have them come in and do some other stuff. We're obviously getting the Corlys spinoff. Rings of Power could have set themselves up where, all right, have a couple episodes, and then if you're going to spend that type of money, make them good, tell a longevity story, and set the seeds for those spin-off series if you really want to have those. I don't know. Obviously, that's a little too compare and contrast with House of the Dragon, which I don't want to do, but also it's hard not to do with both of those heavy time periods done the way they've been done.
Do you think Amazon made a mistake releasing Lord of the Rings of Power right now, because it is running side by side with Game of Thrones? And
I think there's they shouldn't have released it, at the same time, so they'd be running at the same time. They should have been the principal fantasy show and had that by themselves, but they've had to share it with HBO, and that's a programming mistake. I don't think that's a filmmakers or writers mistake. They're just kind of locked into whatever the contract is. And I know they were trying to get it on screen as soon as possible to fulfill their contractual obligations with Tolkien Estate. And Harris was talking about spin-offs, and I figured we'd be talking about that, so I dragged out a little book of mine, and this is what we really need.
Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. It's a little book I got, and for some reason, the hardback version is only available in the UK, so I had to go to Amazon UK to get it. It's just, I don't know why, but
we're just better.
But they do ship to America. And the American version was all in paperback because we're such a disposable society, I guess. And it's illustrated. So, gotta get this. This was the Tom Bombadil. Thank you very much.
You can actually see him picking up to put that back on a massive stack of books he's got just off screen, can you?
I've got this large window in the dining room where I'm filming this, and I've got this shelf above it, and it's like a 12-foot shelf, and it's 10 foot of it is Tolkien books.
God, if that shelf breaks, he'll be killed.
He was killed by Tolkien. Tolkien fan dies.
Sauron, damn you!
Gandalf DeVito dies from giant book stack.
I forgot to get my hat. I need my hat to do the whole thing.
I'm going to write the obituary. We warned him. We can't do any more than that, Harris. We've warned him. But I do think that we'll talk about like I say, that's the comparison between the two. I was going to say it has Lord of the Rings, maybe some of the shine been took off it because of Game of Thrones and because of the shock value and stuff that you get in Game of Thrones. Those moments in Game of Thrones that do make you go, oh Jesus. which are regular. You know, they happen every 2 or 3 episodes. Lord of the Rings is generally one of House of the Dragons and Game of Thrones is literally one of the only shows I've ever sort of had to stop and sort of go and have a walk around. Just like think, because you know, there's a few moments like the Red Wedding and stuff that make you generally go, I'm pretty thick-skinned. That's genuinely shocking. You know, you see like these horror movies and they go, oh my God, it made audiences throw up. And I watch it and I go, Game of Thrones generally actually make me go, okay, I need a second. But because of that, and that's one of the reasons what made it so brilliant, we are comparing it because it is a fantasy swords, dragons series.
Dragons, hello.
Well, Rings of Power doesn't have those shock moments. So it comes across a little boring.
But I don't know if they don't have those shock moments. I feel like they still have some, and it's more relative to it's much more childlike in nature and more fantastical instead of grounded medieval kind of fantasy. It's more that adventure fantasy type of genre, I guess. But I feel like those moments are still there. Like tell me that scene where Arondir getting all that orc blood in his mouth isn't. That's pretty vile.
That was.
That wouldn't be that vile if we were watching Game of Thrones. That would be like, all right, first episode, you're watching fingers get chopped off, you're watching dicks get chopped off, you're watching Daemon cut into anybody and everybody walking through the city getting chopped off something, you know? Where one moment of black gooey blood dripping into the mouth and the face of this one guy who's fairly untouchable, not untouchable, but fairly untouchable. I feel like it's still relative, and they did some of those moments well. Like even when the stranger beats those wolves down later on in the series. I feel like to the relative where it's the childlike media, they did well with that. It's just the pacing and the editing particularly that's what slows it down. If it would have been edited differently, I think with what we have, if it was edited in a better pace and not so, there were some cheesy ass moments. Like I cannot stand the moment where Bronwyn cuts that orc's head off, and then the next edit is her putting the orc's head onto the bar in front of all the Southlanders. I'm just like, there's no gravitas. There's no weight.
That was a bit of a quick edit. There was a bit
that it stuck with me, and that's aggravated me for the last 6 or 7 weeks just thinking about it.
One thing that George R.R. Martin admitted to is like, he purposely made Game of Thrones, all his books, violent. And violence is, I think he was once quoted that violence is a character in the story, and that was, Tolkien that was not his thing. He told these. If you look at how he was influenced, by sagas of Europe, the 1,000-year-old sagas of Europe, like the Icelandic tales, etc. He wrote in a mythological sense. He was not right. There was violence in these mythological tales of Europe, but it was. There was a battle and the blah 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 blah, the dragon, and and George R.R. Martin has was once criticized by his the way he writes violence and the way he writes sex scenes is that he will write with the same kind of energy of sex as he was like a sword going through the head. It was that kind of writing style. And I'm wondering if this is the comparison of one, Tolkien wrote mythology, and Martin is writing more of a modern tale. You see what I'm saying? The two are different kind of literary structures.
Yeah. Tolkien itself it's no matter what, there is a definitive good versus a definitive evil. Where George R.R. Martin, his whole ethos is there is no good or evil, and someone has to find that within themselves one way or another. based around their environments, their life, their decisions, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a different way of approaching a similar kind of fantastical concept, but very different in the approach. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so I don't know. I get what you're saying. So even on the surface, whereas they look similar, and people do make comparisons. If you scratch the surface, they're actually very, very different.
Yeah, it's like what's the Tolkien analogy of the imp? It ain't Samwise Gamgee, he's not the one running around brothels or whatever. Was there even a brothel at all? And I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was even a brothel at all.
No, we're missing brothels. I don't get it.
Probably in Gondor.
In Lord of the Rings. Crazy. The one thing I would say though about the edited and stuff though is I would say edited. I do think they've done a very nice job of keeping Rings of Power in style with Lord of the Rings, and that's why I said so many people that claim to be massive Lord of the Rings fans and then shouting that this is boring thing. And I'm watching it going, it looks. They've gone out of their way to make it feel like. Remember, the Lord of the Rings is basically a film about walking for a long time. It's like, yeah, okay, the battle scenes aren't there yet. The big exciting battle scenes aren't there yet. We've had a couple of smaller battles, but I would say that the style is very, very similar. So I don't really understand why some Tolkien fans are so upset by it. It seems strange.
That worries me going into season 2 because if they got something right for Rings of Power, it is the way it looks and the way it feels. And they're moving it from New Zealand to the UK now, and they're already filming up in the UK. And Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, that's kind of their primary place to film. So I know it can and should look excellent. And I know you might be a little more privy to the UK landscape and know things out there, but New Zealand, like New Zealand's the most beautiful place on this planet, It's
a lot of what we've already seen is just like Wales and Northern Scotland. It's gonna look like that. I'm just saying some of the Northern Scotland backgrounds are going to be stunning. You won't be complaining, but they're going to struggle if they want a sunny day.
Wasn't parts of Andor filmed in Scotland? I mean, isn't that dam? Isn't that in Scotland?
Yeah.
It is hydroelectric dam in Scotland. Yeah, I mean, there's some stunning scenery up there.
It'll all look great, but it doesn't. But the only thing I'm worried about there is that feel, because you can. I don't know. New Zealand just has that. You know when you're looking at that landscape, versus
we don't have the snowy mountains and things like that. They're going to have to CGI some backgrounds.
Which they hired the best people in the world to do this past season, and that's one of the reasons it looks so good. But how much harder are they going to have to work, and is that going to take away from other aspects of the show? I don't know. We can only answer that whenever it's out, But
I mean, like a lot of Middle Earth is like rolling, grassy hills and meadows and things like that, and we got them coming out of our backside. They're everywhere. So, and it will be significantly cheaper to film it here than there. So, I mean, I suppose I say, and we've got some of the best movie studios in the world, and the talent, to produce these things. So there is that as well. But yeah, I thought that was always part of the plan though, that they would do the early stuff in New Zealand, and haven't they filmed bits and bobs for lots of things for the full 5 seasons already, haven't they? Bits. Because they did that in New Zealand, knowing it was expensive, but knowing they were then going to move it over to England. So I don't think it wasn't to do with cost or anything. This was always part of the plan, wasn't it? I think, from what I read. But
I'm not sure, but hopefully.
Well, one criticism some people have had about the Rings of Power was that the big twists were very predictable. I didn't realize actually that Halbrand people thought he was Sauron. I didn't see that coming at all.
Really?
Apparently that was everyone knew that. It was so obvious.
What did we talk about the very first thing? Remember I said Halbrand wasn't really a character. There's lots of people he could have been.
Yeah, he could have been some random guy showing up on a raft.
And yeah. And
and look back now, I should have realised. I'm not going back and thinking it was because the connection. I always realised the connection between him and the king character. He'll tell me his name in a second. The Lord of the Rings king, the guy whose name I can't pronounce. The connection was Aragon. So thank you. The connections were too similar. It was basically the same story, wasn't it? That he was like, he was a nobody, and then really he's the king, and blah blah blah.
And he's the king of he's the king of Mordor. I mean, let me think. Who was that? The king of Mordor. Oh yeah, Sauron.
Okay, so it was obvious then. Okay,
just saying. No one listens to the cranky old American.
But the fallen star guy then, I saw another thing saying that, well, that's Gandalf. And I thought it wasn't Gandalf.
It might not be. I'm still I'm of the mind that is a misdirect, because they have given him a few lines that are literally Gandalf lines, like follow your nose and things like that. But which I love that line. That when the stranger talks, he's had some of the best lines of the show. Also,
I only talked in the last episode, and before that, it was just a lot.
But some of those little moments were Gandalf moments that he had like few words, which were fun. But I think it's a misdirect. I want to say this guy's a blue wizard. I don't even think he's Radagast, because that's where I was going because of all the nature stuff. But I think he's a blue wizard just because he's heading to the east. And Gandalf, what does he say? And is it The Hobbit or is it Fellowship, where he says, "I don't go to the east. I go everywhere, but I don't go to the east."
Don't go to the east, and that's where the two blue wizards went, was to the east.
So I'm thinking he's one of the blue wizards is my guess, and I think it's just a misdirect.
There's a lot of lines attributed to that he says that is attributed to Gandalf. There's one or two that could have been attributed to Radagast. They're kind of Radagasty, and I think there was.
Are we saying that's a word, are we?
Radagasti.
It's part of my vocabulary right now.
And there's like one or two things he did that was kind of Sauron, kind of, the death of the Fireflies, So it's like, I think they it's like, we don't know who he is, but he does have character. Well, he is a wizard. And maybe all of these wizards had some sort of characteristics before they really fleshed out who they were after their fall to Middle Earth.
Saruman never says if he goes to the east or not, and he's not really all that in tune with the good side all the time. So that might be the sleeper kind of. Here you go. Which he was
Saruman's the Christopher Lee. Was that Saruman?
Yes. Well, Saruman's his last direction was straight down the tower to the ground.
That was thing. They called.
They should have called that King's Landing.
They called the stranger the other, though, didn't they? Like when evil Eminem and his two friends found him, they thought he was Sauron, and then they just call him the other, don't they? So it makes it sound like he's very powerful. But wasn't Gandalf not really that powerful compared to other beings? I know he's a very important character, but was he actually like a particularly powerful character compared to Saruman and?
Well, he was when he became Gandalf the White. When he was after he killed and died after killing the Balrog, then he did return as Gandalf the White. He definitely leveled up, and then he became the perfect spoil for Sauron in terms of power.
But the way they sort of called him the other made it sound like he was sort of like to do with Sauron somehow, like he's the mirror of Sauron, or like that they were connected somehow. It's like he's not Sauron, he's the other. That seemed a bit loaded to me. Like that should make a point, but
he's an Eastar, like an angel. Even he should still be at a much higher level. Even as if it is Gandalf the Grey, he should still at least be more powerful than the Eminem knockoff band over there.
The evil Eminem. Oh my God, I love that.
It's great.
I did love him in this character. That was the best bit for the last episode to me, was the fight between them and those three, whatever the hell they were, priests of Sauron or something. I don't know what they were, but they were cool. I like that.
They would have been like, would they have been fallen angels of some kind, Stormy, or no? Because I know Gandalf, Radagast, Saruman, they're all Istar, right? So isn't Sauron is an Anutar, isn't? Or am I misconstruing things?
Well, it's as to who the are you asking like who the evil Eminem could be?
Hmm.
Is this what?
I'm trying to guess power levels here because no matter what, any of the Istar would have been more powerful than the Eminem cover band.
Yes.
Even if it is Gandalf's Grey leveled down,
Right, and right now we're seeing whoever it is, the wizard metamorphosis after you got shot out of a meteor into the ground, and then started recognizing who you are, whatever that transformation is. I would say they are more powerful than the evil Eminem character.
Okay.
Because if you go back to the Hobbit and the battle that Elrond and Galadriel and Gandalf did with Sauron, the necromancer, you see that it's the elves especially are very warlike creatures. You don't an angered elf is a very dangerous thing. It's like an angry Vorlon. You never anger a Vorlon. So I would say, because once you go up from the wizard level, then you're in Sauron territory, and I don't think there is a character power magic level in between those two. It's unless you and I'm really don't want to pimp out Tom Bombadil again, but he was the only person that was totally unaffected by the One Ring of Power. He was just like the big fucking deal. He was totally unaffected by it. Everybody else was, except Tom Bombadil. Who the fuck is Tom Bombadil?
We don't actually have an answer for that, right? We don't know if he's a fallen anything or. He is God. Tom Bombadil is God.
Man, if you really want to, get into a fist fight, just go on some of these Tolkien discords and just say, and just say Tom Bombadil was fill in the blank. Someone's going to beat you up. It doesn't matter. Tom Bombadil was a good guy. Someone's going to come and beat you up because they believe the opposite.
Tolkienists are crazy.
Fuck they are.
Angry. But anyway, so as a whole, I know what Stormy's going to say, but if you had to describe what you feel about the Lord of the Rings franchise, what we've seen so far, and what we're looking forward to, how would you sum it up now that we've seen the season finale? Stormy first. You have a think. Harris, you go first, mate. You
go, Harris.
I'm up first.
Yeah.
Do you want to rate this individually or rate it in accordance with
what did you think of the series so far? And what are you looking forward to the next series, really?
So the one thing it definitely did was make me look forward to what's to come. So now I'm kind of pissed off that they're filming it right now instead of filming it back to back. So we get season 2 next year because they said it's going to be 2 or 3 years till we get season 2. But I'm looking forward to it when it does arrive. I don't know if I feel satisfied from the first season, but I'm next to it. And I still just love Middle Earth itself so much and all the things it brings that I'm going to hop back into it the second I have the opportunity to. But I'm not I'm excited, but I'm not ecstatic. Where I know after House, I hate to compare it again, but after House of the Dragon is going to be done, bring me season 2. I need it. This one, I'm like, all right, well, I got 2 years. Maybe it'll grow on me in that 2 years. Hopefully. And then it's not.
Why would it take 2 years? A movie, if a movie was filming now, it would be out within 12 to 18 months as a maximum.
I thought it came out. Didn't it come out in 2013? Like November?
It's coming out 10 years ago. Woo! That's not right.
2020. No, it's they said. I mean, it's not going to be done filming till with a show this large, it's going to take them as long, if not longer, to film than I would assume a big blockbuster film, which is like 6 to 9 months.
We're Googling like crazy.
I'm guessing late 2024 at the earliest, if not like spring 2025.
Well, the contract that they have with that the Tolkien Estate has with Amazon, I think states that they'd have to have a much more quicker production or a release schedule. Don't they?
Not at the pace they're going at. I would love it too.
2024. It's going to be. It's supposed to be in the first quarter of 2024. So yeah, 18 months.
Wow,
that is proper like big. That's this type of movie sort of time frame.
Mm-hmm. That's like a second Avengers almost, just plopped.
18 months because of the CGI. The CGI is just massive. Sometimes you can create a lot of the CGI beforehand, but when it's so interactive with the person, you have to do it the other way. You have to film first and then CGI, and you get a massive gap between the two.
Especially with them having to film Harfoots and things like that, and have to juxtapose just the size of individuals on screen all at once too. I mean, that's
well, season 1 took 18 months to film.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Wow, it's going to be a big gap. So Stormy, then what do you think? I know you loved it, and I know you're looking forward to the second season. But can you sum it up in why we should all be excited about it?
You're right. I loved it, and I'm looking forward to the second season. I think you guys are onto something when you say that it went head to head with House of Dragon, which is a completely different thing. And why Amazon did that, I have no idea. If they pushed it back, 10 weeks or accelerated it 10 weeks, the release it'd have been better if they put it off 10 weeks. Then they would have had that would have been the thing that everybody was going to watch, because I don't think there's any real big releases coming up in the next few weeks after House of Dragon that I can recall. No big, huge fantasy things. And they would have had it all to themselves all the way through Christmas. And I think that would have benefited the production. I mean, it's a different type of show, but I think it's well worth anyone's time. It is. I will say, one of the commentaries I've read that is a valid point is that Rings of Power is fantasy the whole family can watch.
Yes.
They can't let their kids watch the birth scene of the first episode of Rings of Power. There's very little scenes that they can show that 12-year-olds can mentally, healthily see from House of Dragon. I mean, oh my God.
The problem is with House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, you never know what you might have to explain. And that's just, I've got kids. My lad asked me yesterday, and he's 13 years old, when can I watch Game of Thrones? And I was thinking about it, like going, right, their brother and their sister. How do I explain that shit? And it's just like, you can never, mate. You're not watching it.
You're not banned.
When you're 18 years old, you can watch. I say in a couple of years we'll let him watch it, but I'm not watching it with him. And I'm just
say when you're at the house.
Anything you want to ask, don't Google it.
I mean,
that could be worse.
Much worse, actually. As soon as I said it, I thought.
I mean, the things that are that Tolkien speaks of that is most critical is his opinions. That is in the text of the negative opinions he has of war and technological advancement. Look, he. I think he's born in Birmingham, grew up in Birmingham. Was that correct? A really industrial town.
It's pronounced Birmingham.
Birmingham.
He's from Alabama?
He's an Alabama man.
Surprise.
And then he goes off to war And that great, I mean, he just Mordor is essentially what he lived through. There's a film that's just called Tolkien. It's a biopic of his. Oh, I'm not of his, of him, and it's really good. I liked it, and it shows you where he gets these ideas, and he works out a lot of his feelings from industrialization and the First World War on paper. Which I'm not sure what George R. Martin's trying to work out. Oh my God, what did he go through?
Well, you made me just think of it. It's almost where we talked about. Well, we were saying like they're similar concepts of fantasy in general, but where one's written for families in general, and one's kind of written for adult, and one's more medieval fantasy grounded, and the other more fantastical fun. Part of that, do you think the choices going into the writing of that, at least, is Tolkien went through war himself, went through one of the most grueling wars humanity's ever known in a lot of ways, and was like, screw this, I need to put a little bit of a nice feather on top. I need to put a little smile on it. Versus George R. R. Martin's not necessarily, I can't speak, he's not necessarily glorifying war by any means.
No.
But in a way, he never experienced it, so he's just writing it as hard and as realistic as he can see it in a certain sense, and he's only writing it that way because he hasn't experienced it and wants to run away from it. Mm-hmm. Is that a kind of course, I'm trying to get in their minds.
They also, both writers come from different eras. Like, it's
completely.
George R. R. Martin is nowhere near old enough to even fight in World War II. And also Tolkien was writing, his goal was to write mythology. And so the writing styles he uses are all mythological in scope, concerning like Homer, and as an example of another mythological writer in the Iliad and the Odyssey. Martin is, I don't want to call it pop fantasy, because I don't think it is pop fantasy. I mean, it's definitely heavy fantasy, but it's a totally different subgenre. It's just like the Sword of Shannara is a whole different type of fantasy than the other two. I think it's just just because we're calling both of them fantasies doesn't mean it's the same kind of story or the same writing style. It's like look at all the varieties in horror. I mean, Pinhead's a Disney princess now, so we have all these different types of stories within the same genre.
It's a bit of a question for both of you then, just I think, because obviously Lord of the Rings Rings of Power has separated the audience. People really don't like this show. There was a lot of people that really didn't like the show before they'd even seen it, and then just doubled down after they did see it. But is this show, Rings of Power, 10 years too late? Has the audience changed? Partly because of Game of Thrones? And maybe their expectation has changed?
I have no idea. I mean, I think a lot of the people, certainly there was the trollish aspect going into it. People bitching about it because just to bitch about it. And sometimes I think I'm wondering if a lot of these trolls are just parts of ad agencies. That's I mean, it would not surprise me that if HBO came out and was guilty of hiring trolls just to down the Amazon product and boost up the HBO, House of Dragons product. I mean, the shit that goes down in advertising would stun you. I was in advertising for 20 years, and the shit I did stuns me. So, it's
hell. Someone's going to hell.
Someone, me.
I'm
but so, has the audience changed? Has the audience changed for the Odyssey? Or the Tales of the Argo?
Exactly. That's a good point. Eli and David in the chat just said, Eli said if Lord of the Rings was made now, people would hate it. And that's true in a lot of ways. I think nowadays we're kind of, all of us are looking at things through a very, we're all trying to be not reviewers in our own ways, but we're all much harder on things now than we were 20 years ago. Obviously, I was 3 at that point, so I'm much harder on things now than I was back then. But for everybody back in the day, I feel like
Little Harris was going, "Fuck Daffy Duck."
3 years old, I had some strong opinions back then.
Yeah. Why is Daffy Duck got a top on in their trousers? Mom, this cartoon's crap.
I just want a Darkwing Duck, no Daffy, no Donald, just Darkwing. No, but David B says right after, no good stories last a lifetime. And he's got an excellent point where if this was happening 10 years ago, would we have this instead of The Hobbit? Would people be happier that we have this instead of The Hobbit? Or would people be still, I don't know. I'd still prefer The Hobbit over Rings of what we got here. The first and the third, I don't know about the second one. That'd be interesting to see what people would rate.
A chance. I haven't given it a chance, so I keep saying it's terrible, and I don't know because I've only watched half an hour of the first one. I need to give it a chance. So my opinion really is irrelevant on that.
Was it you that Jay that didn't like the singing? Was that?
I had about 45 minutes of the dwarf singing, and I got bored and turned it off.
Because that's what Bilbo Baggins hates. So carefully.
They sung for so long, though. Come on, it just went on and on. I went and built a shed, came back, and they were still singing. That's how long it was going.
Are you sure you weren't like Martin Freeman's double during that time period? Because I think that's exactly like that was like that was the scene right there.
That was. Yeah, and of course, wait till you get the king of Goblin Town.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
He has a bit of a ditty to say.
My lad has watched all 3, and he says I'm being an idiot and I should watch them because
we all know that's true.
Sorry?
We all know that's true.
Hey, I mean, yeah, but you have to say it. It's like, nice. Just because I called you Danny DeVito a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't even me. Somebody else said it. I love that you do that.
Gandalf DeVito strikes again.
That's right. I'm getting my hat. Hang on.
I'll be back in a minute. And then Disney have got Willow, and it's going to blow both of these shows out of the water. I cannot wait for Willow. It's going to be awesome.
I'm very glad you finished that with both of these out of the water. I thought you were about to say Willow was going to blow, and I was just about to just hang my head and sadness. I'm so excited.
Danny DeGandalf.
Danny Gandalf.
That's the next T-shirt design I'm doing. Danny Gandalf.
It's perfect.
I'm joking. I'm not even joking about Willow. I saw the advert for it in sneak peek next week. It looks freaking amazing.
Excellent.
I can't wait for that. That's I just wish that Val Kilmer was well.
Well, he's going to be in it. That was just about to ask. How are they going to do Mad Mardigan? Because they confirmed Val Kilmer is 100% involved and in a heavy position involved with the show. I just don't. I can't feasibly think of how.
He's been in it a lot, and he's not in the trailer at all. So they're holding that back. That's what people want, but I can't see him being in it a lot. He's not well.
No, but I love Val Kilmer. I love Val Kilmer.
I think that's his best movie, Willow. I hand on heart think that's his best movie.
Well, have you seen The Doors?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very different movie. Yeah, it's okay. No,
very different, but he was Jim Morrison for that.
Okay. Let me rephrase my wording then that Willow is his most entertaining movie. And I'm including
Batman Forever.
Batman.
Joking. Skip over that comment.
Batman. Oh god, the Batman movies. We could talk about the Batman movies so long.
That's a different stream.
George Clooney with the nipples was the pinnacle of just what the hell.
Well, Val Kilmer started the bat nipples, right? They were just much less prominent.
Yes. Well, maybe I don't know. Do I even want to Google Val Kilmer bat nipples? I mean, what in the hell am I going to get?
That's one of those things where maybe Googling it might not be the best thing to Google.
I watched the. Do you know that Canadian guy that does the breakdowns? It's him talking to an executive. It's the writer talking to an executive. What the hell's it called now? Did it on Screen Rant. The pitch meetings. And I saw the pitch meeting for Batman, and he basically pointed out that all the way through the first Batman movie, Michael Keaton's a sex pest. And I'm just like, honestly, go and watch it. Just Google the pitch meeting for the Batman and watch it, and you'll come away from it thinking that the first Batman movie was a very different film to what you remember.
Those pitch meetings they're funny as hell for literally everything, but when they do the good movies and then they still tear them apart and make sense with the tearing apart, it makes me laugh so hard, but my heart just sinks all at once.
Yeah.
I love them though.
Willow can't be woke. It can't be. How? It's wizards and stuff. How can it be woke? And no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Damn it. I hope. God, I hope. Nowadays, I never used to. They've always made bad TV shows and bad movies, and every so often you'll catch a really bad movie on Netflix, and they go, "Oh God, I've forgotten how shit this was." So I mean, Hollywood making bad stuff is not new.
No,
I feel like more recently though that every time you watch something, you go into it with a little bit more trepidation than you used to. It was, am I just getting older maybe? But it's like oh God, I'm watching this going, oh God, I know this is going to be shocking. I'm just and
well, like my 3-year-old self said a minute ago, 20 years ago, Lord of the Rings, people were probably like, this isn't going to be great, but then super excited after the fact. But we weren't going in with that same kind of not so rosy tinted glass. We're a little more hazy tint towards what we're going through. We're like, we have to get through a layer of fog before people actually like things nowadays.
I think the thing is, what to remember is that people forget the really bad movies. The really bad stuff, we forget about it, and it's only when you sort of go back and look, you remember the good stuff. So it's that rose-colored spectacles thing that you think about the 90s. And, oh my, there's such great movies in the 90s. Yeah, there were some great movies, but there was also some utter shit. And in the 80s and the 70s and so I think that's an element of it that everyone thinks 20 years ago is amazing because you only remember the good bits.
And it's important to watch all the bad stuff too. I feel like a lot of the times nowadays, just because there's so much on all these different streaming services still being released in theaters, yada, 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 yada. And from every single angle, we have new things all the time. And they're all very niche, which is awesome because you can really go towards what you want to watch. But in that same kind of way, you don't necessarily watch. You're not watching what you don't want to watch. You're not like, okay, well, this is what the pop culture zeitgeist is talking about right now. Let me try it out. Oh, that was crap. Let's talk about it. People just skip over that and figure out the next thing that they think they're going to like at least.
Well, also, I mean, the bad stuff doesn't get repeated, so you forget about it. So, I mean, there's a very practical reason why we don't remember it, because someone will go, oh, that was a shit film. Let's never show that again. And we forget about it. But,
let's go. I want to readdress the issue of was Rings of Power made 10 years too late. And it got me thinking on how we perceive good films, good books, bad films, bad books, sometimes good music, bad music. Did Homer, when he wrote the Iliad, did he have a publisher or an editor he had to satisfy?
15 of each.
okay.
Where Peter Jackson had to deal with New Line, and the show writers for Rings of Power has to deal with Jeff Bezos. And I mean, George, the writers and everything behind Solo had to deal with Disney.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse.
Which are we looking? Are we being presented? Are these films that the audience want, or are the filmmakers making stuff the audience want, or what the producers and the studios want? And because Mark Twain, he really didn't have a publisher. Just like, okay, give me another fucking book, and I'll publish it. The authors of the ancient sagas didn't have a publisher. It was told by one generation passing down to the next. And I guess the auditor of those stories was like, well, I'll embellish this, I'll drop that because I didn't like that part of the story, and so they always evolved. Are we, so the question is, would it hold up today? And so I have to ask myself, what would the rules or the marketing advice that the studio execs took for the Fellowship of the Ring, are they using that same data to make Rings of Power? And how much of these stories, and let's throw the movie Solo into this, which really should have been titled Chewbacca, and I think everybody would have liked it better.
It should have been titled Let's Not Make It.
Yeah. So, I mean, are we looking at the filmmakers, or we're looking at marketing firms telling the executives what people want to see? And how much does that rob us of what the real storytellers want to do?
It shocks me how much, because it's like there's people that I talk to mostly about Stargate and stuff, and it shocks me how many times it comes up. There was in a marketing meeting and this happened, and we're in a marketing meeting and this. It seems to be that the marketing meeting is what happens first nowadays.
Would not doubt it.
It's not like it seems to be. There's the Michael Wright guy. That's the guy that's going to make the final decision on Stargate, but he is way down the line. It's like. I did a video last week saying that there's apparently, according to someone I spoke to, there was a meeting last week about Stargate, and they were talking about how they want to move on, and they were saying by January 15th they want a decision because they want to announce it for when Epix becomes MGM Plus. So they want to announce it just before. But that's the marketing team saying that.
Yeah,
it seems to be that the marketing team are the first rung on the ladder sort of thing. It's got to get past them before anything else happens. I don't think that was true 10 years ago.
Even if you go back about 15, maybe 15, 20 years, was 15 years? Kanye West had this reality show on MTV about this rap, putting together a rap group, I
can't wait to see where this is going.
Okay.
The Eminem cover band? Was it an Eminem cover band?
Evil Eminem cover band, I hope.
No,
Was it an evil Eminem cover band?
No, evil Eminem.
Jesus fucking Christ. So, but no, it was, so they're in there, right? And he's got the musicians together trying to make some sort of band, right? Trying to kind of like the Monkees, I guess, a manufactured band. And so in the marketing meeting, and they showed that they have this marketing meeting going on. Well, what's the band's name? What are they about? And it's really not the band members trying to say what they're about or what the motivation for the lyrics are. It's like, how can we present them, and what is their message to the people? I mean, it's like
how we selling
it was manufactured. It wasn't like something spontaneous like Wu-Tang Clan, which was a kind of a spontaneous group. But yeah, and so there's and these marketing guys, who I know a lot of them, what they're like, they're not English lit majors at all. They're MBAs. They know dick about arts. The only art they care about is this ad campaign going to boost their sales of the soft cookie market 1%. That's their conversation. And by the way, the soft cookie market 1% is actually a conversation I had to endure on a flight to Los Angeles once upon a time from two jackass beside me. Yeah. So God, that was a long.
I'm appalled. Look, actually, genuinely, talking to a few different people about Stargate, I can't believe how these decisions are actually made. It is genuinely shocking. It seems so petty, almost, how some of these decisions are made and some of the things that they consider. And can we make a good show? Seems to be it's not on the agenda. It's not on the docket when they're deciding whether it seems to be who can we sell it to?
Yeah.
How does it help these different markets, or how does it nowadays? It's how does it help us get subscribers? That's the initial conversation. Advertising doesn't come into it as much anymore.
Yeah.
It's how can we get? How does this get us more subscribers? How does this affect social media? How does this thing? And then it's like, how can we get endorsements? That seems to be the next thing they talk about that I hear quite a lot. Is how can we sell this show to not advertisers but people that will give us money to put an Audi, or will Audi want to invest and put a car in the show? Will Coca-Cola want to give us some money so somebody can? And that seems to be the next show. And then it's like, you haven't even talked about whether the show's going to be any good or not.
Yeah, the Prancing Pony IPA. It's sad that there's a lot of really good stories, a lot of really good media that are just rejected because there's no place to put the Audi. I mean, I've heard conversations where, properties, especially comic books and specifically, where great stories are passed over because there's not really any branding opportunities for to help support the film. Because everybody's looking, I think everybody wants to be George Lucas with his relationship with Hasbro. I mean, George Lucas, when he made American Graffiti, he had fuck you money. I mean, he could just do he could do a film for whatever he wanted. And he said, "Oh, let's do Star Wars." And everyone was, "What the hell is that?" No one got behind the film. I think the guy that really promoted it to the studios, I think he was either fired or quit or something during the production of Star Wars. And so Lucas just kept giving up all of his, whatever it takes to get a little bit more. He gave up his salary, et cetera. Says, "Well, okay, fine." And he ended up with the permanent toy franchise for it, and he would sell those rights off for the production company. And my God, the Hasbro for all the toys, those contracts probably more valuable than the film itself. And so when you get to that point in either Hollywood power or money, you can kind of do what you want. But those opportunities and those people are few and far between. I mean, even in E.T., still Steven Spielberg had more marketing dollars, for Reese's Pieces.
Yeah. The agreement, he had agreements in it with the studio to make Schindler's List, and part of the agreement was you'd have to make Hook. So they said, "Look, we've got this thing that we can sell the crap out of, Hook, and it's great." And Steven Spielberg was like, "I don't really." And he's like, "Look, we will fund Schindler's List, a film you desperately want to make, if you make Hook." And that was contracted, and that was part of the agreement. And that was Spielberg, 20 years ago, when he was the height of his game. He really should have been able to go on making, and the film producer, the movie maker should have been like, "Steve, whatever you want to do, mate.
Yeah.
Whatever you want." But no, he still had to negotiate to make a film as powerful and as important as Schindler's List. He had to negotiate, and and it's like, that's amazing how these things work. It amazes me that it shouldn't really, but it amazes me that these decisions are made by so few people as well.
Yeah,
and it comes down to I've suggested that Michael Wright is the head of scripted, and if we want to really get Stargate made, let's all write him a letter. And I put it on the community page today, and I've actually put the address of the headquarters for MGM headquarters in Beverly Hills. And just let's all write Michael Wright a letter, a polite letter. Somebody else come back and go, "Shall I send him a dead squirrel?" Goes, "No, don't send him a dead squirrel. Don't do that. Send him a very polite letter saying, please bring back Stargate." And maybe that.
what does it say about us? Growing an audience that would think sending a dead squirrel to Michael Wright is what we're wanting him to do. I mean, what does it say about us? I mean,
It's gonna be fun.
You're a fucking genius, but then I thought, no, that probably won't work.
Dead squirrels are never fun.
But if we get to February or March next year, if you wanted to send him a bag of poo, the address works too. If we get to March next year and we still haven't got Stargate, bag of poo.
You know what I'd love? If somebody's going to get the dead squirrel, it should be the marketing guys.
Yeah. Well, like I say, the more I hear about what goes on, I don't share a lot of what I hear about it because it's boring and nobody really wants to hear it. Nobody will listen to watch the video. But the more I'm told by, like I say, this one guy in particular that works he works with legal stuff and he tells me a lot. And some of the stuff he tells me, I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's just ridiculous how these things work. I'll send them
Is that what they eat for Thanksgiving in Canada? Canadian Thanksgiving?
Do you know, because I'm a dad and my brain is practical, I was thinking, oh, the postage on that is going to be ridiculous. Straight away. I can afford a squirrel, but
the geese.
I'm going to have to send Shelley some money to help out with that. You're going to have to FedEx that shit, aren't you? Right, guys. It's dark here now. So, thank you so much. Again, it's been a brilliant chat, and we didn't get to talk.
We're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Stormy.
We haven't discussed what we watched this last week.
Oh, shit, a break. Okay.
And we usually start off with that.
We've been talking about it for an hour and a half. Did you watch?
No, we talked about 3 shows.
Yeah, it's the 3 shows we watched.
No, we didn't. Okay. But there is more. Yeah, so start off, Jay. What did you see this week?
The only thing I really watched, other than what we've already talked about, is obviously what I say every damn week, Lower Decks, which was good. I really enjoyed it. They did that whole sequel to one of the things they did. They did a Hollow movie, and we saw a Sovereign class starship in it, and it was just freaking brilliant. And there was no awkward humor, like in the bloody Birdman snogging the little robot thing and them making sweet love. There was none of that, which I appreciated. Have you seen last week's? Do you know what I'm talking about? I
have not watched any of this season.
Oh dear God, the bird episode is cringy, but it's still very funny in places. But it was cringy. But last week's was phenomenal. But you know what? I've actually started watching again, which I'm enjoying. It's not quite sci-fi, but I've started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer again. And have I mentioned this already? I've skipped a lot of the first season because it's not very good. But I've started watching it, and Angel's just become evil. And I'm like, oh, man, I am back in my early 20s. This is bloody brilliant. And I'd forgotten how much I fancy Sarah Michelle Gellar. Really like Sarah.
I was kind of shocked when I found out that Dolly Parton was a big funder of that show.
Yes.
Really?
It was her production company that kind of said, oh, Dolly thought this was a great idea, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so let's do it.
Yeah, she put a lot of money into I've forgotten the name of the production company. That's how it ends every episode, like a zombie thing. But she put a lot of money back into that. It wouldn't have happened.
And nobody do it like Dolly.
Do it like Dolly.
Damn straight. But I haven't actually. Don't think I've watched much else. So go on, Stormy. What do you think, mate?
So
you're so insistent you want to do it.
A few years ago, when I moved, right before COVID, I moved to California. And so I stopped watching Walking Dead, and so the thing I binged this week was definitely getting back to Walking Dead, and I'm halfway through the last season. I'm almost caught up with the most recent broadcast, I think. And it's even with that kind of several year absence, it's amazing to me how well the story held up after I stopped watching it and how still engaging it was. And the thing I've remarked about the writing this last week that I've been watching it is how the writers were able to reform the character Negan. It's like, They have one whole episode of Negan's backstory of how Negan became Negan, how he got the ball bat, how he got the jacket. And it is just heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking how all that developed. And it's like, oh, now we know why Negan was Negan for a little bit, for the dark Negan period. And then we have the repentant Negan period. And it was just really good. In fact, as soon as we get off here, I got to do a load of laundry, but we'll put that shit in. And then I'm going to start watching the last few episodes. Because it was just really compelling, even after all these years, still going to. And I think this is the last year of The Walking Dead, because there's a couple of spinoffs that I still have to also catch up with. I haven't caught up with those. But it was a writing challenge to get somebody as evil as Negan to seem sympathetic before, understanding why he became evil Negan, and why and make it so powerful that even Maggie, the wife of the guy that he brutally killed in the first episode we see Negan, can almost kind of forgive him. Almost. Which it was really powerful writing, and whoever's running the shows over at AMC needs to work for MGM. It sounds like, because the AMC guys really have their shit together, because they can really put together a story. Sometimes they miss Rubicon, and sometimes they really hit it out of the park. Preacher,
AMC is excellent. To be fair,
yeah.
I hate zombie things. I think I've told you before. Give me a rifle and enough ammunition, I sort out any zombie apocalypse in a couple of hours. They don't worry me. But is it Negan? Did you say was his name?
Negan.
The actor that plays his character is just one of those actors I wish he'd been in other. He's just brilliant.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan is fantastic.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's in a film called Losers. Chris Evans and that is in it. And I wish that film got a sequel. I thought it was great. But it wasn't massively popular, but it was a great movie. Idris Elba was in it, and Zoe Saldana was in it, and
that was it. Yeah, and it's oh god, what was the name of the villain? And he was overcome by this one gentleman's shortness, and he looks at him and says, "Are you standing in a hole?" I mean, he was just.
I watched it again about a year ago, June. I think I watched it again during lockdown, but
So the first thing I saw him in, he was playing the comedian in The Watchmen.
Yep.
First thing I remember him from, and I thought,
and then
that was a really good performance.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to work on American soil.
Yeah,
Zack Snyder wanted to bring him back if he was going to finish all of his Justice League trilogy stuff as the Thomas Wayne version of Batman in one of those dream sequences or something like that.
Right.
We don't need to get into all the Zack Snyder stuff, but that was possible.
We'll be here all day.
Oh, what have you been watching, Harris? Anything?
Well, I watched Hellraiser. I was talking about watching it last week. Finally watched it. I really liked the new one. It's probably my second favorite behind the original. I watched Halloween Ends and liked it significantly more than I thought I would.
Ends as well. Yes, I enjoyed it as well.
I went in with the lowest of low expectations. And
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, finish it.
Is that in the theaters or is that on like a streaming service? Halloween.
Yes. Yes.
Both.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I went in with the lowest of low expectations. Oh, I see. Because a studio's not, if they do that now still, that to me signals that they are not they don't have confidence in the product.
Is that the modern equivalent of straight to DVD?
Yes, it is.
No, I don't think that's fair. Straight to DVD is not the same as straight to streaming. Not now. There's too much money in streaming.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to bring new subscribers in streaming. If there's no adverts, it has to bring new subscribers, and it is kind of similar in the same format where straight to DVD, okay, that was back in the day where they're not counting on a theatrical release at all. It is going straight to DVD or a TV movie per se, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
and they hope it garners money there. They know that that's not going to get new subscribers per se, but they're putting it there so people watch it, hopefully, but they're also releasing it in theaters at the same time just to hope for a couple dollars. That's where they're looking for money there. They're not thinking they're going to get new subscribers off of it per se, or they would have pushed it and only made it a Peacock thing. They would have done that like Prey or Hellraiser for Hulu or The Samaritan for Amazon Prime, something like that, where this is kind of, it's not all eggs in a basket. It's throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something sticks, you know? It's kind of just how I look at that.
I enjoyed it, but it was just another. It was basically just because they had Halloween Ends already, as far as I was concerned. The last movie was Halloween Ends, and I enjoyed that as well. Jamie Lee Curtis, and it was great. But but it was an enjoyable horror movie. I don't particularly like horror movies, but I enjoyed it. Good film. I would watch it again.
I thought it was a decent psychological slasher, but not necessarily your best Halloween movie. And I think they advertised it wrong because all the advertisements that were there for it, all the trailers, anything and everything was just about the Michael fight with Jamie Lee Curtis and all of that, which is literally the last 15 minutes of the movie. There's a whole movie in front of everything.
Yeah. And
we didn't even realize Corey, that guy, was going to be a character at all. I mean, Michael Myers almost gets an apprentice is the basis of this movie. And it's more of a psychological slasher, and I like that aspect of it, and I think it escalated it as a film, but not necessarily as your fun Halloween slasher movie that people wanted and expected, you know? So I think there's multiple ways to look at this one.
I think in a couple of weeks we will have a Halloween episode. We'll talk about some of our favorite Halloween movies from over the years. Not necessarily sci-fi, but screw it, I'm in charge. I can talk about whatever we want. Or we're in charge. We can talk about whatever we want. Yeah. So I think we'll have a Halloween episode week after next.
Okay.
So let's do that. All right then, guys.
Besides that was Rick and Morty, though. And I got to end on Rick and Morty. Fantastic. But now it's gone for 6 weeks.
Oh.
Sad.
Still not watching. Stormy,
but it's fantastic.
Stormy, it looked like something was going to... You looked up and all wistfully like something was brewing.
Well, is Nightmare on Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?
Yes.
Ooh, Nightmare for Christmas. I tell you, I cannot wait for that new the Santa Claus movie that's coming out this year. I can't remember what it's bloody called. I put it all over the thing. What was the
with David Harbour?
Yeah.
Violent Night. Isn't it Violent Night?
Violent Night, that's it, Violent Night. Oh my god, I want to watch that movie so much.
It looks good.
It's what Die Hard would be if Santa was actually in it. It's just like I can't wait. I really, really want to see that film. But right, guys,
is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's the greatest Christmas movie.
Something we all agree on.
Even though the director said it's not, and Bruce Willis said it's not, but it is. So they're wrong. And so is Die Hard 2. Merry Christmas. My favourite, we all had to wear our Christmas jumpers for Christmas last year, and I had mine with ho, ho, ho. Now I have a machine gun Christmas jumper, but it's written, it looks just like from the movie. I was so proud. Everyone else is there with like stupid Santa Claus singing, and they're going, I'm wearing a proper Christmas jumper. So proud of myself. Right, guys, let's call it an evening.
Sure, fine, whatever.
So thank you so much. It's nice that you don't want to go storming, but go we must. So
I do have to do laundry. I apologize.
Yes, and I have.
You're trying to fall asleep on that side of the world, and me and Danny Gandalf are just waking up over here.
Oh, it's pitch black in here. It's autumn, though. All the leaves are changing. Danny Gandalf. I still need to find out if Danny DeVito has a catchphrase that we can throw into this. I need to watch more Danny DeVito stuff. Guys.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just binge it all.
I do love that. Guys, thank you so much.
Please, enjoyed it.
If you are watching, go and check out in the description. There is a link to Stormy's Facebook group. Stormy's YouTube channel, Sci-Works, which is like our more intelligent cousin on Sci-Trek. When I was thinking up Sci-Trek, I might have accidentally stolen at least half your name for your channel.
Probably
Didn't
so.
mean to.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to. Completely accidental. But anyway, Sci-Works.
My
And you
most
can
popular
go-
video this my most popular video this week was me making a microscope out of a laser. Don't ask me why. It just got this crazy ass jump.
You
DIY laser microscope. Go watch. Yes.
There is also a video where he plays with hydrogen and doesn't blow himself up. I was so disappointed. He kept his eyebrows.
Yeah,
and
not getting singed.
I watched that so excitedly. I was like, it's like, go on. No, nothing. And you could also, in the description, find a link to the Young Americans channel, M Cubed, where he talks about lots and lots of fascinating things. And I promise I will keep a little bit. You don't talk about that as much as I thought you would, after a minute. So,
well, we have a couple videos, and they're just long videos that take forever to be edited, and we have to finish. We're doing full cannabis feast, so we're doing like edibles, but full meals out of them, and it takes a little while to get those together, get people together, and all that. But it's
because stoners take forever to do everything.
That's the truth.
Problem. It's like,
But
if
in
you don't-
15 minutes, I got a ticket or skip coming out, so check that out, y'all.
Excellent. And those are the ones we love. And obviously, we're doing a few more videos for the Sci-Trek channel as well when a sci-fi movie comes out. So we look forward to those. Guys, thank you so much as always. It's been absolutely brilliant. I'm trying to find the outro. Can never find it, but I found it now. Bye, guys.
Toodle.